Hear me? All right, thank you. I am so excited for this second networking event. Um, just really appreciate the turnout. Hopefully you will enjoy our Flash Talk presenters and the opportunity to network. So the idea is for the Flash Talk presenters to just give a taste of what they're doing so that hopefully you can all intermingle, share what you're doing as well. If you haven't had an opportunity yet, in the middle, in the back, our table with Post-its, if you're doing international work, please put your name on one or two or more Post-its and what countries you're working in, and put them on the various big Post-it notes so we get an idea where everybody here is working. So we want to keep things moving, so I'm going to turn things over to Tom Bailey, our president.
Thank you. Actually, I consider this the third event.
Oh, yes, you're right.
Because as many of you have probably heard, these are like some of my favorite events. The one that we did at Columbia was really amazing. That was sort of kicked this off. And then the one we did on health and wellness in March, that was great. And of course, I'm certainly interested in international. I feel like I've been with many of you all day because many of you were in the meeting we had this morning at 9 o'clock. And then, of course, there was the faculty meeting. And, all of this is really about us as faculty getting together and understanding, the things that we're doing. And I've really been struck as I've learned more about what people are doing, how much we're doing. And on the other hand, often we're doing it in isolation, or we don't know, what other people are doing. And so I'm just delighted that these events are, allowing us to get together and really understand what we're doing. And, you might find that somebody else is doing something in the same country, and then we can work together on that, or maybe the same continent. So I really hope that those types of things happen, and that we can continue to, collaborate. And by understanding what all of us are doing, I think can lead to a stronger kind of overall strategic approach for the college to doing work in this area. Now, obviously international, we are a deeply international institution. And I think that's one of the most attractive things about it, one of the things that's attracted me to it. So this is I'm really looking forward to hearing the kinds of things that, that you're doing, and maybe I can go visit each of these projects at some point. So anyway, look, let me introduce Amin Mishal, who's the new Director of Global Engagement, and he'll give you an overview of the Office of Global Engagement and then kick off our work. So.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this international academic ceremony where we are all going to celebrate your international endeavors and achievements, which are making a difference in the world and contributing to the well-being and advancement of the world. My name is Amin Mishal, and I'm the new director of the Office of Global Engagement. A lot of people in the internal community would like to call me the new Portia Williams, which I love, by the way. And it's an honor. I'm sorry, I was asked to speak into the microphone. I'm not good at it, but I'll try. Which is an honor, as I was saying, because Dr. Portia Williams co-founded the Office of International Affairs, and she has been leading the Office of International Affairs, of course, until I came. And even now, I'm learning a lot from her. So she set the bar really high, and I'm really trying to keep up. So please bear with me. Without any further ado, let me introduce you to our team. Of course, as I said, I'm the director of the Global Engagement at TC. I oversee all the office's operations, and I also work closely with the Vice Provost for Academic Planning and International Affairs on the governance and strategic operations of the center as well. We have also Barbara, who is our international projects and partnerships manager. Barbara supports all the international partnerships, from MOU negotiations and coordination to drafting them, to coordinating with other internal stakeholders, to actually the stage where we actually sign those contracts. Lauren is the international programs coordinator. She supports our day-to-day operations and coordinates our international activities. She also oversees the Fulbright program. And by the way, the Fulbright program is managed internally at the level of the Office of Global Engagement. And we have Carolina, who is the program coordinator for Fulbright, and Samaya, who works with different offices at the academic planning office, and she supports specifically our office a lot. Okay, so our projects at OGE stretch all over the world. Over the years, we have been nurturing and building very meaningful collaborations and partnerships with governments, NGOs, even sometimes companies and higher education institutions. And in every single project that we are leading, our faculty are at the heart of it. Basically, and to make a long story short, we cannot do anything without your involvement. So that's why in this presentation, I would also like to share how we can work together. And since many of you participated in some of our programs or like helped with some of our programs, this is just gonna reinforce what they already know about the services that we offer to the faculty community here at TC. For OGE-led projects, which are projects that are actually coming straight to our office from international partners who want to establish collaborations about international research, international training and capacity building, or international scholarly exchange, they come to us and then we reach out to you to see who is interested in actually being part of these projects. And there is also faculty-led projects which are initiated by you and through your own networks, and in which we mainly provide support and assistance for you to be able to take that partnership to the next level. Our support includes advising, vetting funders and new partners, international travel approvals, budgeting. We have resources in budgeting and we can help with that. And of course, with addenda and MOUs. We work very closely with the legal office here at TC. So we can help a lot with that. Here are some programs that I would like to highlight. Of course, we have a lot more programs, but for the sake of time, I will only talk about the 4 that are mentioned here. We have the South Africa Racial Justice Fellowship, in which we are taking 15 people from TC, professors, students, and staff to South Africa to engage in conversations about racial justice with students from the University of KwaZulu-Natal in Durban. And this is going to happen in June, towards the end of June. And the project is funded by the US State Department. We also have one of the projects that I personally, it's personal to me because I'm originally from Morocco, and it's happening now as I speak in Algeria. And it's basically to help internationalize the entire education system in Algeria through enhancing the capacity, the English capacity in the country. For Tunisia, we are doing something which is similar in terms of enhancing the capacity of English in the country. And like one of the highlights of our partnerships, recent partnerships, is the Wellbeing Initiative, which is a consortium of 12 well-established universities in Europe, from different European countries, and that is funded by the European Union. So basically, this consortium wants TC faculty to be involved in their work, research, international exchange, and also training programs. And right after my presentation, we're gonna show you a video that was filmed by one of the founders and leaders of this initiative, who will actually talk to you about the initiative and how you can be involved. And we are also hosting, I would say, a workshop on Wednesday. Please talk to us after the presentations, and we can give you more information about it, about the Wellbeing Initiative and how you can benefit from this funding through the University of Wellbeing. If you have any questions, you can talk to us after the presentation, and there will be QR codes everywhere in the room. So please feel free to scan them and just register or just put your email so that we can send you more information about the programs that we are currently implementing or developing and that you can take part of. So thank you so much for listening.
Ich wünsche Ihnen einen wunderschönen Nachmittag. I'm Jasmin Donlich. I'm visiting scholar at the Department of Organization and Leadership, and I'm so happy to be here. I would like to say thank you to Amra Shabic El Reis and Victoria Marsik for this great opportunity. In my flash talk, I would like to draw your attention to collaboration between the Teacher College and the University of Klagenfurt. Before I start, do you know where Klagenfurt is located? I would like to explain. Yeah, that's good. We are located in a multilingual area in the Alps-Adriatic region, which includes Austria, especially the southern part of Carinthia, Slovenia, and northern Italy. So what is Austria famous for? Except for the sound of music that someone of you might have seen. Empress Sissi, the pianist Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, of course Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Eurovision Song Contest with Conchita Wurst, but we also know for the Wiener Schnitzel and the Sachertorte, and of course of our mountains and lake areas. But this is our university. The university is established 1970. We have around about 12,600 students, 4 faculties, 20 bachelor degrees and 29 master degrees. And these are the 4 programs. And I'm pleased to happy about the collaboration between the Teachers College and the University of Klagenfurt. So how our universities work together. You can see development of collaborative research projects and programs, organization of joint academic scientific activities such as courses, conferences, seminars, symposia, or lectures, exchange of research and teaching staff, exchange students, and I would like to show you the big opportunity between Teachers College and the University of Klagenfurt is one big opportunity is the Horizon Europe track with a 95.5 billion euros pot. This call is divided into following clusters. Cluster 1, health, culture, creativity, inclusive society, civil security for society, digitalization, industry and space, and climate, energy and mobility, and food and natural resources, and also joint study centers. I would also, within the cooperation within the UNESCO chair, we could set up lectures and projects. I'm chairholder of the Global Citizenship, Education, Culture and Diversity and Peace with Hans-Karl Peterlini. And I'm also ambassador of the Alps-Adriatic Rectors Conference. And there's with Christina Beretta in the ARC, where about 40 members are included, and we can also use this networking opportunity. And also Erasmus Plus projects with students and staff exchange would be offer transcultural experiences. And if you have any questions, please contact me. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much. Herzlichen Dank und einen schönen Nachmittag.
Thank you so much. And I'm really hoping you will all take advantage of talking to the various members of Global Engagement as well as Yasmin. And now we are going into the next phase of our program and our TC Flash Talks. All the faculty know that they have 2 minutes and that they have a high bar at the T-Cub event. Everyone was great at keeping within their time. So anyway, I'm going to ask everyone to introduce themselves and we'll move through the Flash Talks. So our first Flash Talk.
Hi, I'm Doug Reddy. I'm a professor of public policy and education and the director of the Consortium for Policy Research and Education, CPRE, which has been designing and evaluating policies and programs for about 40 years now. I've been involved with CPRE for about a decade and have served as director for the last 7 years or so. Since 2018, we've had about 25 large-scale externally funded projects. So rather than picking one study, I'm going to just provide a quick overview of who we are and what we do. We do 3 types of work generally. We do large-scale impact evaluations that leverage causal and quasi-experimental designs to establish program effectiveness. Second area are studies that seek to understand policy implementation and stakeholder experiences of those programs, often with the aim of unpacking impact heterogeneity across participants and contexts, why do programs work in some contexts, not others, and more direct work with partners in which we co-design policies, programs, and implementation strategies. We do a lot of domestic and international work. Our domestic work over the last decade or so has been supported by lots of government, private, philanthropic organizations. Recent and ongoing projects have included studies of early childhood, teacher professional development around mathematics, the use of personalized ed tech platforms that leverage artificial intelligence with early elementary literacy and middle school math, the role of pre-K program, racial, ethnic, and socioeconomic segregation in early childhood cognitive development, the effects of computational thinking strategies on student literacy and math learning, and the potential implications of free online open access literacy curricula. We've also conducted a lot of domestic studies with major corporate partners, including Apple, Houghton Mifflin, McGraw-Hill, and Pearson. I'm talking so fast, I recognize. And then our international work. We've had several studies over the last decade in Brazil. We're currently engaged in a 5-year implementation study of Brazil's Base Nacional Comum Curricular, which is their Common Core curriculum, funded by the Lemon Foundation. We've also conducted several longitudinal studies of large-scale interventions designed and implemented by Itaú Social, the philanthropic arm of a major Brazilian bank, as well as evaluations of Instituto Singularidade, which is arguably one of the more progressive and practice-focused teacher training programs in Brazil. Other international projects over the last 5-10 years, we helped design and evaluate there's a new school of education at the University of Warsaw in Poland. We've worked to help build and again evaluate the implementation of the Queen Rania Teacher Academy in Amman, Jordan. We've worked with STEM developers in Thailand with the Ministry of Education, leadership modules, teacher training modules in Saudi Arabia with Todware, and a really interesting program with the Madrasati program in Palestine, funded by the EU. Thanks.
So I'm Gita Steiner-Kamsi. I'm professor in International Transcultural Studies in International Comparative Education. And I will talk about the topic and then say how the 3 different projects fit into that topic. And the topic of the last couple of years has been on knowledge brokerage. In domestic context, there's a lot of talk about evidence-based policy and planning. And it is relatively a new topic in global governance issues. And I'll tell you why. We are used to be very cynical about the science politics transfer, evidence-based policy planning, because we believe it is very much agenda-driven. So what you see here is the 2 communities framework that also Guy Layal from across the street is writing about in the Crisis of Expertise and others. There is more and more a brokerage function coming in between science, researchers, and the ones that apply evidence or research. And the knowledge brokerage is a huge topic that is emerging in global governance in the form of synthesis research, best practices, 5 takeaways, etc. What is especially interesting is the surplus of research. Like 20, 25 years ago, everyone talked about the necessity of having more research. Now the question is what to do with this flood of research and studies. So UNICEF, UNESCO, Global Partnership for Education, World Bank, OECD, all have moved away from producing research to making use of research or to synthesizing research. And one of the studies I did for UNESCO showed the little uptake of research that exists, of all these platforms that exist. Another study, it's funded by the Norwegian Research Council, shows about OECD, World Bank being really knowledge brokers rather than only knowledge producers. The last trend is the focus of global governance organizations moving from the global level to the regional level. And this is a trend that exacerbated during COVID. And one of the hubs that I'm part of, it coordinates like 28 different governments in the Pacific region and Asia, supporting, strengthening national policy expertise rather than global policy expertise. This is it.
Hello, I'm Paulo Blickstein from Brazil and associate professor at the MST department. I'm going to talk about one particular project that my lab has been doing for the last 5 years. We are a very international lab. About 80% of our staff and researchers come from different countries, and we have worked all over the world, or we have partnerships in all of those countries. So, I'm happy to talk more about that later on. But a lot of work in the Global South, especially, and a lot of work in Brazil as well. But the project I'm going to talk about today is a project for transforming STEM and technology learning in a city in Brazil, in the Global South. We know that this is a key for economic development, etc. It's one of the most researched things that we do. And so the idea here is what happens if you transform the entire city, so all the schools, 100% of the schools in the city. So we work with a city that has 200,000 people. It's a typical size for 80% of Brazilian cities. And in this city, for the last 5 years and for the next 2, we are building labs in every single middle school in this city. We rewrote the entire science standards, and we are collaboratively training all the teachers all the science teachers in this city. So the only thing here is that the cost per student in this place is 10 times less than what it is in the US. So our challenge is to bring world-class STEM education to a place where we have 10 times less resources. And that's our big research challenge. But the good thing is that we've got multiple publications out of this. Some of the local teachers are also co-authors in those publications because they were also part of the design of the project. And it's something that we believe could be a model for this type of city in Brazil. So it could scale to many, many different states in Brazil and in the Global South. And doing research and doing this with lots of data and evidence is really key to allow it to scale. And, super excited to share more of this with you if you're interested. So thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Lena Vardelli. I'm on faculty in the clinical psychology program and founder and director of the Global Mental Health Lab. So, in a flash, here is where we have been working all these years. And today I'm going to focus on the regions in blue in sub-Saharan Africa, and I'll discuss about the project in Uganda to give you a flavor of the randomized control trials we do there for perinatal depression. So perinatal depression means depression during pregnancy and postpartum is very common, especially in areas of poverty. And in northern Uganda, you see the staggering rates. And it's very impairing. It's a big source of, physical and emotional disability in the mothers, but also the children have very poor outcomes, physical, emotional, and cognitive. So in response to that, we designed a study, a randomized controlled trial in northern Uganda, in the Kitgum regions, and I was the co-PI. I collaborated with a group I don't usually collaborate, and these were colleagues who do nutrition work. And we wanted to see if we treat maternal depression, whether we'll see effects on, not just depression, but especially in nutrition-related behavior, nutrition hygiene-related behaviors that really affect the baby and the whole household. So we use this treatment adapted, interpersonal psychotherapy adapted for cultural and contextual relevance. We randomized them, 1,250 women depressed in a cluster randomized trial. And half of them got IPT, and then all of them got the group, the counseling for nutrition. So here we have very big effects, nutrition, on depression, and IPT had some advantage. What is important is here, and this is where now we are focusing more and more, changing nutrition and hygiene-related behaviors following IPT. And when we put together, the depressed and non-depressed folks, the depressed folks from both groups, we saw a very big difference. Even before they had counseling, nutritional counseling, the behavior changed. So it makes sense to address perinatal depression, even in areas of extreme poverty. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kate Crowley from the program in Communication Sciences and Disorders. So I saw the other people had their pictures, so I put mine, but here we are. There's two things I'm going to talk about. One is the international opportunities that we've been offering for our students since 2006. I take graduate students to Latin America to do service work in part of a seminar every summer, and then also to Ghana every January. And well, you see Dr. Carol. So I have a couple of photos. This is just on the right your left is the most recent professional development we've been doing. We do a professional development every year in Ghana with these teachers, always in collaboration. This is visiting a school that we work with. This is just a couple of things. We've developed All About Me books in 5 indigenous languages of Ghana that we've worked with the teachers on creating. They're used all over the place. This is a communication system we developed for students with intellectual disability that also is used all over Ghana. It was a responsibility of a Ghanaian child to go to the market for the parents. They were not able to do that with the intellectual disability to remember how much and which of the items that were needed. So we have the system, which is now used all over the place, and parents are happy, teachers are happy, we're happy. And this, look at this. Dr. Carol Hammer has come to Ghana for 5 times. This is our literacy approach. So we all have a really good time in Ghana, can you tell? The other thing I do global capacity building for cleft palate speech therapy. And I've been doing that for a while. So the most important thing is to build on what's already there in the countries. I've never been to a country that didn't have strengths to build on. And once you do that, there's a recognition of 15 seconds. There's a recognition of what people are able to do. So here we go. This is the in-person trainings we do. We build cleft palate assessment and treatment materials in local languages. Speech therapists need that, so we have materials available in about 30 different languages now. This is, we do speech therapy, so the trainees actually get hands-on speech therapy, 9 hours of speech therapy during the 5 days. And then after the training, we provide support for the people who are strong, who can be trainers, who can provide this direct therapy, and we connect them with mentors. And I have this website that's actually used now all over the world. In March, we had 31,000 visits from 132 countries. I actually counted them. So thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Ebley. I am an assistant professor of economics and education in the Department of Education Policy and Social Analysis. Soon to be associate, I think it's fair to say. I do quantitative research on the economics of education. This takes place primarily, but not only, in developing contexts. About half of my work takes place in China, and the rest of it is split between West Africa, the Gambia, and Guinea-Bissau in particular, as well as India and the US. The tools that I use include randomized controlled trials, quasi-experimental analysis, what I hope is very careful descriptive analysis, and I have an English project using computer science tools, specifically natural language processing and computer vision tools, to extract the messages contained in curricular materials about concepts like race, gender, and age to understand at a very high speed what books are teaching kids about these societal constructs. I have one project I'm working on that I'm sort of a teaser for potential collaborations, give ideas. Over the past 7 years, I was very involved in 2 projects, one in the Gambia and one in Guinea-Bissau. They combined many things known to work in isolation, put them together and showed that you can work in places that have basically a 0 chance of people in a rural area growing up to ever be able to read a passage and understand its content, bringing them to either between 25 and 60% likelihood of total literacy like you'd expect of a 3rd grader here in the US. And so this was transformative, we're super excited about it. What we're doing now is we're going to go back and find these children 5 years later and understand how have their lives changed. What happens to gender norms, what happens to family formation and fertility, what happens to labor market participation. And the sort of broad ambition of this is to really create a peri-preschool for the developing world. So peri-preschool is a project where a bundled intervention like this took place in very low-income parts of Michigan, I believe, and followed children for 50 years and showed that these investments transformed their lives. And we hope to do the same thing in the Gambia and Guinea-Bissau. So if you have ideas for survey ideas or offshoots, I'd be delighted to chat about it. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, I'm Aparna Anand. I'm a lecturer in Economics and Education program at EBSA. How to improve educational investments of low-income parents has been a very important question and policy focus for a very long time. I looked at this question with a twist. I looked at this question with a twist. I look at the role of children helping parents at work and how occupation as a component of one's identity can shape up the investment decisions of the household. And this is a quick glimpse of the child labor structure. Here I focus on the small category which comes under the light work, in which children can provide unpaid family work less than 2 hours a day if the school work is not predisposed. But literature has been largely silent in evaluating this particular category, and we have not yet understood the opportunity cost of this particular child labor. And the main outcomes I'm looking at is the various educational investments in terms of money and time. And I develop a child labor substitution as a quantitative measure based on the number of times the child substitutes for parent. And occupation identity I derived through a game I constructed. So this is the identity game I constructed, which is like a board game. It's played by the respondents of the survey in 3 rounds. And by elimination of choice, they choose the factor that matters the most to them. Like as you can see, it has this occupation. It's all in regional language, occupation, birthplace, relationship, and the mother tongue. And the survey data comes from a random sample of 305 households from 2 public schools. The chosen child and the mother of the child were surveyed on various household characteristics, occupational characteristics, educational investments, measure of their identity, how it's formed, and school performance data. I found various interesting association. Monetary and time investments, they were both negatively associated with their child labor substitution and occupational identity. Behavioral attitudes had this sort of a positive impact on time investments. Most interestingly, children who chose occupation to be their primary component of identity scored significantly more points in the exam. And where do we go from this? Collecting data on child labor is extremely difficult. Mitigating or removing is not the focus. Can we optimize the intra-household allocation? Can we target interventions that changes the perception of occupation? Could be directions of research. A new exciting continuation to this research. We are going to pilot this July based on this exogenous variation of access to pipe water, look deeper into this time investments and with a focus on women's empowerment. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Irina Lublinskaya. I'm from Russia. Actually, I'm from Soviet Union, to be more specific. And so some of my research is really looking at teacher education in post-Soviet situations among different countries that are trying right now to change the way the education system is built and the way that we need to prepare teachers for success in the 21st century. So for those of you who don't know, Soviet Union was very centralized teacher education, a very centralized system of centralized curriculum, very teacher-centered, and there is a particular culture of teaching in Russia, in Kazakhstan, in other countries. So I'm working with several of them. I'm going to only look at one quick project that is still ongoing. So here in preparing elementary school teachers, we worked with a Russian university and American university and developing professional development to see how we could change the perceptions about how to teach by bringing in inquiry-based learning, by bringing in technology, but also by looking at what each educational system brings and how we can learn from each other. And so in this context, we actually did synchronous online professional development with 10 student teachers who were currently in the practicum. And the groups were similar in some ways, but American students were way more diverse. The interesting part is we've completed quantitative analysis and it showed very interesting results, and we're right now in qualitative part. So collected tons of data. The Russian students had way better, significantly higher geometry knowledge compared to American students. And towards math, American students had mostly anxiety, while Russian students had mostly enjoyment. But when we looked at the attitudes towards technology, it was the other way around. American students were way better in their attitudes towards technology, and Russian students were more hesitant about it. And if you look at typical classroom environment, it also shows like a big difference. So what we're really looking at, does the same PD, the same structure of training emerged from both countries affects the way people, teachers change or don't change their teaching culture. And right now we're analyzing videos of teaching and in relation to cultural things. And that's just one of plenty other things that we're looking at a couple of other countries in the same situation. I'm going to skip that, and thank you.
So I'm Pierre Faller from Adult Learning and Leadership.
Victoria Marks, Adult Learning and Leadership.
So today we wanted to talk to you about a program actually that we developed for a group of 6 Iraqi faculty. It was a faculty development program, and the six faculty who we worked with were from 3 different Iraqi universities. And the program was supported by a grant from IREX. Maybe some of you know about it. It's part of the Department of State, and it supports global education initiatives. The program had 2 major goals. First, we wanted to help our Iraqi colleagues to become more familiar with core principles of adult learning, including transformative learning theory. And we also wanted to help them to conduct their own research so they could develop their own faculty development program in the future locally, and they could help their colleagues locally to incorporate best practices in adult learning to their teaching. The 6 Iraqi faculty were as I mentioned, from 3 different universities. And of course, it was a process. And I'd like to actually thank Portia for her help during the process of securing the grant and the discussion we had with IREX. And this is the way the program was designed. We had 6 modules, 4 on adult learning theories, 1 on online learning, because it's very important for them, and 1 was presentation of their own research project.
So I'm going to speak a bit to the angle of the research piece of it. And one of the things we did was we tried to use the strategies that they were going to be teaching in our components of the modules so that they got the grounding of that and they used the instruments and they did that kind of work. And then they themselves developed a needs assessment of the 3 universities, the faculty that were in there, about what it is that they would need if they were going to develop this kind of curriculum. So we have to remember that Iraq universities, there are 3 different universities, a lot of differences among them. But ultimately, what they were looking for was to get a baseline of what were these faculty's experiences, philosophies, how were they doing teaching. The notion of transforming the curriculum is basically around changing to a more learner-centered, student-engaged process. Because there were great needs for changes in skills that people needed when they would leave the university and they weren't getting them. And so they did create, in fact, a blended model. We have to keep in mind that a lot of their faculty, like us at the beginning of COVID, were not very familiar with using technologies. And so it was a kind of a transformation in the way they had to think about teaching and learning. And it was a mix of collaborative, face-to-face when they could, but an awful lot of independent asynchronous work and support. The end. Just want to say they look for the risks of implementation, and we did have some good outcomes from it. We are in touch with them. We've kept in touch with them, and we're hoping that they might bring a contingent of Iraqi faculty sometime to Tisch's College soon.
Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mary Mendenhall, and my research is situated in the fields of education and emergencies and refugee education. I focus on teachers and teaching amidst forced migration and displacement, primarily in refugee contexts in East Africa. There are 100 million people displaced around the world today. The displaced are young, living and are hosted in low and middle income countries with challenging education systems in their own right. And all are displaced for many years in both rural and urban areas. Despite efforts to ensure kids in crisis and displacement contexts can enjoy the right to education, there are many challenges. For refugees, achieving access alone is a major obstacle. While research on students is critical, of course, the teachers also demand attention, and the demands placed on them without the requisite support are unprecedented in these contexts and really globally for that matter. There are different needs depending on their profiles. Are they refugees from the refugee community? Are they from the host community? Are they qualified? Have they had the opportunity or not to earn those qualifications and experiences, among many other factors? I'm currently helping the UN Refugee Agency and other international actors conceptualize these different profiles and related needs, and then thinking about how these profiles interact with the range of policies and practices in any particular context with research questions that map onto the key concepts that you see here on the screen. And the purpose of this work is to affect change right now, as well as in the future. And here are 3 sample studies as of late that provide a snapshot of the different themes, the countries, and the donors that we've been working with, namely the LEGO Foundation, the European Commission, and most recently, the Columbia World Projects. So just to quickly highlight that this work is qualitative, collaborative, participatory, and critical. In addition to asking questions about teachers, it aims to address how development and humanitarian work can be carried out in a more responsive way through meaningful collaboration with displaced individuals and communities. And I absolutely couldn't do any of this work without the master's students and doctoral students who've been deeply involved with these studies from the inception through to field work to presenting in international and national fora. And so wrapping up, moving forward, just thinking about how to strengthen and expand this work, establishing a hub for research, policy advocacy, teaching, and much, much more. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Garnet Russell, and I'm an associate professor in the International and Comparative Education program. And my research emerges primarily from 2 global phenomena that you see here on these beautiful graphs. One is that there's been a rise in internal civil conflict and internationalized civil conflicts, particularly in the past 2 decades. And relatedly, as Mary presented, we've seen a rise in forced displacement, reaching a record of 103 million in 2022, and that includes refugees, internally displaced people, and asylum seekers. So my research is situated at the intersection of education, conflict, and forced migration, and I draw on a sociological lens and mixed research methods, primarily quantitative and qualitative methods in my work. So today I want to briefly talk about 2 ongoing projects, and I also want to acknowledge the amazing master's and doctoral students who've worked with me on my projects. And so the first project examines the role of education systems in promoting peace building and transitional justice in Colombia following more than 60 years of ongoing conflict. It's a mixed method study using surveys and interviews. And in future work, I hope to continue to work with education schools to work with teachers. The second project is looks specifically at the role of schools in promoting civic identity and belonging amongst resettled refugees and newcomers in the US. And I use mixed research methods in 4 schools in New York and Arizona to include the perspective of students and teachers. And in future work, I plan to work with the recent influx of newcomers and asylum seekers here in New York. There have been more than 50,000 just in this year alone. There's more than 13,700 enrolled in the DOE schools, so I'm hoping to do a project on that. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, I'm Danny Friedrich. I'm from Curriculum and Teaching. I'm originally from Argentina. And so when I got tenure a few years ago, I asked myself, what do I do with tenure? And part of that was about, what do I do with this responsibility? And it was about me thinking, a colleague of mine gave me this word, like the playfulness between volver, which is, I'm not gonna go back to Argentina, but devolver, which is to give back. And so I've been doing a lot of projects that have to do with establishing bridges between Latin America and the US. And so I want to share one event that leads to a project. This is the event that I'm helping organize with a committee which Olga Hubbard is part of, and also other faculty from Latin America, on Bodies, Aesthetics, and Education in Latin America, taking place here on May 22nd. We're bringing 8 scholars from Latin America with funds from the Institute of Latin American Studies. We're going to do roundtables. We're going to have an artistic performance outside on the street with a Brooklyn-based Latin American artist. We're going to do a keynote with a Latin American artist living in New York. But basically, out of this project also will come a series of books that we've partnered with a publisher in Latin America and a publisher here. The idea will be to translate 5 books from Latin American scholars doing work in curriculum studies with feminist movements, social movements, that doing pedagogy, bringing to English, and doing the same thing, 5 scholars in the US that are doing innovative work in curriculum studies, publishing in Spanish. All of it open access, free. And the idea is, again, to start bringing more people back and forth and to make more things in Spanish, Portuguese, and the language that are spoken. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for organizing this beautiful event that comes at a great time when the pandemic has separated us. It brings us through events like this together. My name is Richard Jochum. I'm faculty in the Art and Art Education program and at Teachers College. And the work that I want to speak today to you about is a collaboration, a partnership, a research partnership with an art school in Austria. And the research partnership we started several years ago, it's on the changing education of the artist. It consists of several symposia, highly interactive symposia, meaning symposia where everybody who comes to the symposium is activated as an audience, as a participant in various roles. That matters a lot. Research, as I understand it, needs to be practice-based in order to be meaningful, especially when we talk about education. And so we have been doing, it started here at Teachers College. We had faculty and presenters come from Austria and give talks on different themes that I will highlight in the next slide. Then we went there to Vienna. Then the next one was again here and so forth. So it went back and forth for several years. And out of it, out of these symposia, we created books that were extensions of this work. Each time we looked at a different theme that is seminal to the education of artists. What are the pedagogies that we use in art education? Which ones do we want to keep? And which ones should we kind of think about to adapt to changing times? Then another one on critique. Critique is an incredibly important assessment criteria that's unique to the arts, and arts in the broader sense. And then teaching artistic research, art as a form of knowledge building, so to speak. And then the latest was on art school pedagogy. That became an online symposium because we had the symposium, but it allowed a larger audience. We had 1,000 people almost signing up with 100 presenters. So we again tried to activate as many people as we could. The book is now, as an expanded version of this, based on the symposium, we are now doing a book through Teachers College Press, Turning Points. The next one is taking place next month on collaborative world building, socially engaged art and art education. How do we not just elevate the people we work with, the communities we work with, but actually learn from the communities we work with. So that's happening in Vienna next month, and we are really excited to bring several faculty from Teachers College there and students. And based, it is on the generosity of our host organization, the University of Applied Arts. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Matthew Henley, and I am an associate professor in dance education. Welcome to Jebel, Lebanon, also known as Byblos. To my right, the Mediterranean sun dapples the limestone blocks of a Crusade castle. Behind me is a collection of stone funerary objects that date back 8,000 years. Ahead of me are Roman columns and the ruins of a small amphitheater. And to my left, a typical Lebanese house sits, a 2-story off-white cube with a red sloped tiled roof. Beneath my feet are the artifacts left by prehistoric peoples: Egyptians, Phoenicians, Persians, Greeks, Romans, Byzantine Christians, Arab Muslims, Europeans on crusade, and Ottoman Turks. Several hundred meters inland are the defunct train tracks left by the French, from whom the Lebanese gained independence in 1952. Down by the water in the marina is Pepe's Cantina, where pictures of Brigitte Bardot and Marilyn Monroe adorn the walls from a time when Lebanon reinvented itself as the Mediterranean Riviera, the Riviera of the Middle East. A civil war that started in 1975 and lasted until 1991 brought another collapse from which the Lebanese people have been recovering for the past 30 years. And now, in the midst of ongoing political corruption, a peaceful revolution, a horrific explosion that took 204 lives, the Lebanese are adapting to change, seeking to recover from collapse, to rise from the ashes. In the heart of Byblos lives Al Sarab Alternative Dance School. More than a place to learn dance steps, Al Sarab is a way of moving in the world, of thinking, of feeling, of interacting, and of creating. Starting from a humble series of workshops during the Civil War and officially founded as a school in 1991, Al Sarab grew to a student body of 440 students with 34 teachers. After the economic collapse, the number was reduced to 34 students and 4 teachers. In the face of this crisis, Al Sarab had 4 options: fight, flight, freeze, or collapse. They chose to fight. This research tells the story of Al Sarab, its growth from and place in the unique context of Lebanese culture. Inextricable from the story of Al Sarab is the biography of its founder, Dr. Nadra Asaf. Though Al Sarab's history and Nadra's biography play out in the geographically small and culturally unique context of Lebanon, this is a story in a larger sense of a community using education and artistic practice to cope with trauma and forge pathways for recovery. In this endeavor, we align with calls for more examples of culturally relevant dance pedagogies, as well as advocacy for trauma-informed pedagogies in dance education. The research itself is part of that path to recovery. Telling the story of this community is part of the fight to remember, to resist, and to rebuild. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Sandra Schmidt. I'm an associate professor in social studies education. My work is situated in this talk around Malawi. I was invited a few years ago, into this project by two colleagues in Malawi. One had been a professor of social studies education, and the other a social studies teacher, both of whom are now working in the Ministry of Education when we began this work. This work is influenced by the tensions around who determines and how are the standards set for civic education. This work is important around the world, but particularly in countries like Malawi that are not merely contemplating global dilemmas, but bearing these crises like climate change. Crises like climate change are global dilemmas, but they are experienced locally and in relation across localities. As we deliberate global citizenship and global infrastructure, policy, and participation, my colleagues were critical of US educational programs brought to Malawi that reflected nationally oriented forms of participation above all others. My colleagues recognize the importance of global education, and they participate in summits, discussions, etc. across locales, quote, global work. But also that in Malawi, solving global dilemmas begins with local action and restoring and retaining local institutions. Malawi, like other countries across the globe, have long been organized around deliberative practices and community membership and action. But these democratic constructions are not recognized in some spheres because they exist within elder systems that are not elected governments. Malawi also shares in an urban migration problem. To be educated as citizens within a global education system educates people out of their rural homes because these places do not contain Western structures that such education values. Hence, to educate toward representative government as the site of change and action is to educate people out of rural areas that are the lifeblood, literally through agricultural and cultural holdings of the country. Hence, this work is relocating civic education as a local and communal practice in the organization and curriculum of various teacher training colleges so that they can share this with their students. We began with an examination of various projects and then continued to invest in these by developing teachers who would remain in rural areas where they were assigned. There were a variety of model programs such as planting a tree for every student with every faculty member. In agricultural classes, learn about the mechanisms of keeping that tree alive and growing it. And in social studies, studying the community problems that lead to it. So these are a model of the programs that we're continuing to use into these TTCs. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Eric Voss. I'm an assistant professor of applied linguistics in TESOL in the Department of Arts and Humanities. Today I'm presenting a professional development initiative to promote teaching of integrated content and language in higher education in Algeria. This is to support English as a medium of instruction. The program, which now consists of 2 grants written by Professor Jim Purpura, started as a 3-year grant in 2021. It is a partnership among the Algerian Ministry of Higher Education, United States Department of State, Columbia University Global Center in Tunis, and the Applied Linguistics in TESOL program here at Teachers College. The first grant included plans for a conceptual framework, a formal domain analysis, coordinated program of professional development, and an online English language and pedagogy resource website for teachers. To develop these objectives, a team from Teachers College met with leaders from the Algerian Ministry, university officers and professors, and observed courses in Algeria. The professional development courses were delivered online through Zoom, beginning in September of 2021. The instructors were Jim Purpura, Donna Brinton, myself, and the first grant, and Vivian Lynn Hartson will join us as the instructor for the second grant, and 2 doctoral students, Brian Carroll and Kimberly Tan, have supported the courses as teaching assistants. The students in the program were subject matter instructors and English language instructors from higher education institutions throughout Algeria. The size of each cohort is around 30 students. This slide shows the title of the 4 modules in the online course. I taught the 3rd module, which helps instructors identify specialized vocabulary in their discipline through a corpus-based analysis of thematic resources. The dates you see on the slide are for the 2nd cohort, and the professional development course for Grant 2 will begin next week. Activities ended with a 2-day roundtable in Algiers on how to strengthen English language programming in Algeria, featuring a presentation about the program. Students presented their capstone projects with whole group discussions. Outside experts were invited to attend, and the roundtable was followed by a graduation ceremony. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Oren Pizmoni-Levy. I'm an associate professor in the International Comparative Education Program within the International Transcultural Studies Department. So if I need to describe myself, and I'm really enjoying the conversation because I'm learning a lot about colleagues that I've been interacting for 10 years. If I need to introduce myself, I'm a sociologist with an interest in comparative and international education. And I want to emphasize 2 things that really characterize the way I do my work. One is partnerships. I work with partners in the US, partners abroad, and partners could be schools, it could be cities, it could be NGOs, it could be government or international organizations. And I'm very proud by the fact that I have a multi-method toolkit. I'm not limiting myself to a specific method. I rather be driven by the research question. My key interest is global educational movement. So everybody asks me, what do you mean when you say social movements? I don't only mean people in the street protesting for a change or advocating for their rights. I'm thinking about the phenomena of how collectives are organized, working together in order to change or prevent the change in a system. Specifically, I'm looking at education. If I need to describe the 3 cases I'm looking at, I have one conservative case, which is international large-scale assessment. Everybody here heard about TIMSS and PISA and PIRLS, international large-scale assessment that tend to rank countries by how good or bad their education system is. And then that's created a very strong pressure for the systems to actually become more conservative in terms of the curriculum. It's narrowing down the curriculum. The other 2 cases are environmental and sustainability education. Most of you know me with that hat of that annoying faculty about climate change. This is me. And also LGBTQ education. 2 movements that are more progressive, trying to change the systems to become different, to address issues of climate or to address issues of LGBT rights. The framework I'm developing in my work is this recursive framework of ideas that are spreading worldwide through the concept of world society or institutionalism, and then the idea of fragmentization. These ideas are being broken apart at different levels of the policy process, and then there is some kind of a feedback loop. This is one of my recent studies. We're looking at networks of countries referencing each other in PISA reports, and I'm interested in what shaped this network. But the most important piece is my next year. My next year I'm on sabbatical. I'm going to focus on a project that I've been working for a long time called Testing for All, where I'm developing this concept of politicization of how science or what scientists do becomes a policy. So I'm more than happy to talk about that later. Thank you so much.
I will be really quick. I just want to remind you of the supports that we're trying to provide to everyone. I just want to make an announcement just to remind you about the collaboration grants, which have somewhat replaced the Provost Investment grants, but there's $5,000 opportunities rolling for you to come together and investigate new opportunities, pilot data, literature reviews, things like that. And so we did have a level 2 $20,000 award due date today, which I had put that a long time ago before we even had set up this date. So anyway, give us a week to announce it. Another level 2 opportunity will come up due July 30th and then starting in the fall. So please think about, look for opportunities here and elsewhere. Please go to the tables, the global engagement. Thank our colleagues for doing a fantastic job and sticking to their time limits. But it's just so amazing. And what I also can't do is forget to acknowledge Harriet and our 2 students that I have learned have left. But Harriet and the students have, so Harriet, could you come up? Raquel and Tanya have left, but I really want to appreciate all of you. So please have your beverage of your choice. Please network with your colleagues. Thank you so much.